Okay, today in this video, I want to talk about MOD calls, manager on duty calls. Again, don't hesitate to subscribe, like, follow, and leave comments if there's anything that would make these videos better for you as far as helping you learn. Manager on duty calls are mandatory in our sales training system. And I want to explain to you why. First of all, there are two reasons that you would make a manager on duty call at the point in the close. Do you remember back in orientation, there are 4 reasons to call your manager? No one's home, can't get in the door, can't get into a demo because of something they're saying or some obstacle that they've put in your way. You get to the close and you can't close, that's where we are here, or you put the job in production by calling your concierge before 9 o'clock Monday through Friday, before 7 on Saturdays, or your manager who will let them know about the concierge the next day call. So this is the number 3, you can't get it closed. And the reasons why you would call when you can't get it closed are 2 reasons. First of all, several of our managers have been doing this for decades. Myself, I've been doing this over 30 years. And while I can't ever give you a word track or a thing to do in the house that's guaranteed to get you a close 100% of the time, I can promise you, no matter what they're saying, no matter what you've run up against, I know exactly what I want you to say or do to have the highest probability of closing. I've been doing this for over 3 decades. I have tried all the different avenues, and I can tell you what your highest probability play is. The one that'll get you the result you want most of the time, or more times than any other play will. So you don't have to know the answer when they tell you something. I'm just telling you there is an answer, no matter what they're saying, no matter how in a corner you think you are, and you need to make that call and reach out and let us help you. Sometimes just having a fresh set of ears listening to what's going on in the home, and we might give you a suggestion that you're like, oh yeah, that's great, I can do that. All right, thank you, and just point something out. Here's the biggest reason why you're calling, this higher authority. A significant number of the people you go see, I'm not saying the majority, I'm not saying over half, but a significant portion of the people who will eventually buy from you have had people in their home before, understand that a lot of companies have a call the manager part of their system, and have literally looked at each other before you got there and said, hey, if we like everything they've got, remember not to buy, honey, until they call the manager. They always is a better price after they call the boss. A significant number of people, no matter how good you are in the house, no matter how good a closer you are, they've literally made a game plan not to buy from you until you pick up the phone. So it has nothing to do with your closing skills. It's literally something you can't overcome without doing it. So pick up the phone. For that 1 out of 3 of your sales, the 1 out of 3 who knows that that's part of the process, you need to pick up the phone and do that process so that you have the best chance of selling. So that's the 2 reasons to call. When in the demo do you call? So there are 2 answers to this. The first answer is it depends on your manager. I will often, with new people coming out of training, I will have them call me before they even do the initial visit incentive. And I will do that for them over the phone, over speaker. Never put the homeowner or you on speaker unless your manager requests or tells you to do so. Do not start the call on speaker where the homeowner can hear the manager. We'll talk more about that later. So with new sales reps or somebody who's been closing and is now struggling, I will move the MOD call to earlier in the closing process, to right after they finish price presentation, and I will do the major close and the setup for the qualification of the initial visit incentive for them so they can hear how I do it. They can hear it in real live time and they can quickly go, oh, I can do that. Okay, and after hearing it 2 or 3 times, I can do that. And also to get them closes that they might be missing because they're new and they just don't have it exactly down. So your manager might have you move your MOD call further up in the process. But the regular way, especially with people who have been closing and with us a while, is you're going to go through price presentation and you're going to introduce the initial visit incentive. You're going to qualify them for that savings. It's not for everyone, but it's for today's business. And you're going to make that significant incentive, and you're going to see if you can't close them with financing terms or with a discount for the cash and that kind of thing. At that point, if you don't close them, and remember, we're going for true rejection here. So we're never going to accept, well, I got to think about it or give me a couple of days. We literally want the people to say yes or no. In the porch light close, I will many times look at them if they're still hemming and hawing about give us a couple of days. I'll look at the one who wants it the most and I'll go, repeat after me, Mary. Harold, and she'll say Harold, I'm never ever going to buy windows from you. And you'll be shocked how many of them go, no, I'm not going to say that. And then you try and get it out of John, and he's not going to say it after hearing Mary refuse to say it because he doesn't want to sleep on the couch or get in hot water since she's the one that really wants it. Or it could be vice versa. Maybe he's the one that really wants it. You started with him. And so they both refuse to tell you no. And then now they sound silly. You go, okay, well, welcome to Remodel USA. And you go for that close again. I've closed multiple deals by just getting the people numerous times, 4, 5, 6 times, to refuse to say no, they wouldn't get it. And then asking for the business, and they hear how silly they are. And at some point they go, okay, let's go ahead and do it. It's a very easy close for the person that happens with. But going back to the MOD call. So we're going to make the MOD call either where your manager instructs you, or we're going to make it after we've offered the initial visit incentive, the incentives that we've been telling them we were qualifying for, because you can't make another discount after that without losing credibility. Because the obvious question is, why didn't you offer that to them when you could have? And so we're not going to try and make continued incentive drops, continued discounting without getting the manager involved. Otherwise, you just lose all credibility. So that's when we call. Reasons to call is if you need help, you just don't know where to go with it. You that lifeline, you lean on that experience of that manager to help you out. And we're also satisfying that higher authority, that person who expects you to make the call and won't say yes until that call is made. All right. So when we get ready to make the MOD call, we are not going to tell the homeowner, hey, I'm going to call my manager. We're not going to tell the homeowner anything about why we're calling. We're not going to ask them if they want this savings or that incentive to qualify for this. Okay, you've already brought up your military and your Social Security and your medical needs if it applies, and you've already brought up the initial visit incentive. We're going to talk more about the conversation you're going to have in a second, but don't telegraph what you're doing. I want you to start your MOD lead in with your homeowner one of two ways. You're simply going to say, I have an idea, or let me check on something. That's it. Not I'm going to call my manager. Not would you do this if we did that. None of that nonsense. You just simply say, hey, I got an idea. Let me check on something. Or let me check on something. Or I got an idea. You just pick up the phone and call your manager. You call, if the order that you call is, if you have a sales manager, you call your sales manager first, then you would call your general manager, the regionals, and then after that you could call Mark or myself. You can also call another senior sales rep on your team. You know, and Nick's territory, you could call Mike Fredette or Dana Brown or Sherry Brooks or Martin Rabone, any of those people, Deirdre Kelly, any of those people could do an MOD call for you. Down in Harlan's territory, if you can't get a hold of Harlan or a sales manager, Rochelle, you could call Liz. So I'm not going to list everybody in each territory, but you don't have to just call a manager if you can't reach somebody. Call another senior sales rep who's made many MOD calls. They'll be glad to take your MOD call. All right. So when you call on an MOD call, there are 4 parts to the call. The first part is the place. The second part is the people. The third part is the project, what you're doing for them. And the fourth call is affordability, which is going over the numbers that you've actually discussed with this particular person so your manager knows where you are. Not only does your manager need to understand what numbers, payment and discounts and price you have in front of the person, and yes, I use those words for us, but I would never say price, I'd say numbers, I'd never say payment, I'd say monthly investment, and I'd never say discount, I'd say incentive. I'm using these other words so you can better understand this message. So not only do I need to get across to my manager the details of the numbers, my manager needs to understand where I am in the discounting process. You should never be below 95 to 100%. I'm okay if you're not at 100% because you gave them military or Social Security or something, as we talked about in the earlier video. But you don't want to be making your first MOD call at 88% or 90%. That's foolish. You're not leaving your manager enough ammo to work with. So the manager needs to understand that you're either at one click, 100% a list, or if you're not, exactly where you're at. So their conversation doesn't mess up your commission. This is a very bullet point type conversation. I want you to think of who you're calling. You are not calling the manager that you might go have a beer with after work, whose house you might go over and watch the Sunday football game. You're calling the big boss. And you're probably calling them at night, at home, interrupting their evening with their family or calling them during dinner. How would you talk to that big boss? You'd say, Mr., Mrs., sorry to call you. I really apologize for being so late. Or if you called them during the day, I know you're busy at the office. I really hate to bother you, but I really need some help here. You're calling the person who has the authority to do something special for you. The ultimate authority to do something special for you. So, call them Mr. or Mrs. Don't call them by their first name. You pick up the phone, let me check on something. The other art to an MOD call is for you not to be saying yes, no, yes, no, You want to involve the homeowner in the conversation. They need to understand the conversation that's going on between you and the manager you've called. They are part of it. So I pick up the phone, let me check on something. I call up, Mr. Snyder, this is Harold. I'm sorry to bother you at night, but I really need some help. Have you got just a few minutes? I apologize for calling this evening. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Listen, I'm out here in Timbuktu, Virginia. It's absolutely gorgeous. They got a great place. You'd absolutely love it. They got about 10 acres out here. You can't even see their neighbors. That's it. I'm not going on for 5 minutes about their house. I'm just saying something nice about their property. People love where they live. Say something nice about it. If they're in a subdivision, it's a nice mature subdivision. You got the full-grown trees, not the little scrawny ones a new subdivision has. It's gorgeous here. Got the shades everywhere. If they live in the city, things are so convenient. I see what they mean by city living. I can walk out their front door and everything's within a block or two. Just say something nice about where they live. I'm sitting here with Mary and Bob. Remember, you need to be on a first name basis by the close. If you're still calling them Mr. or Mrs., you're easily going to be closing at 5 or 6% less than being on a first name basis. Trust me on that. You should have been on a first name basis coming out of warm up and for the last couple of hours. So I'm here with Mary and Bob. Wonderful folks. They've really treated me like family. Bob actually grew up here and he met Mary when he was in the military and drug her back here to his hometown about 32 years ago when they built this house. That's it. Something nice about the two of them. Or you could say, Mary and Bob. Bob's retired, but Mary still works for the local school system, probably knows every child that's graduated high school in this county as long as she's been there. She absolutely loves working for the school system. That's it. Nice and short. Something about the people. Say something about the project. You're literally saying something about the project just so one more time the people can hear everything they're getting, and so your manager has some idea of what you've built out. Properly done, your manager can tell you whether your pricing is correct just by you listing this out. Also, there might be things in what you've offered that they might use in the MOD call. Sometimes taking money off isn't as exciting for someone as giving them something. So one of the MOD calls might be us taking care of the cost of one. Even though it's the same thing, we take care of the cost, so that's money off. People's perception is they got something for free. That matters a lot to people. So when I get to the project, I'm going to say, now, the house is beautiful, but that bathroom's got that avocado green tile. Now I'm going to start including them in it. You don't like that avocado green tile anymore, do you, Mary? Mary's laughing at me, Mr. Snyder. It just doesn't fit the style of the home anymore. And they're teenage boys. They're grown now, but they're teenage boys. A number of years back must have been horse playing in the bathroom, and one of them pushed the other, and there's a big crack down the tile wall. We're a little concerned about the moisture we saw on that moisture meter, aren't we, Bob? That we definitely got some water getting back there. I mean, it's not a super big crack, but over the years, there's definitely some moisture back there. It was about 35-40% on the moisture meter down at the bottom of that crack. Definitely a concern for as long as that crack's been there and for as long as that moisture's been getting back there. So what we did, and I'm just going to go through the project. We did, a 30 by 60 pan in white. We're doing the beautiful Brevity door. We're going to do the flip up seat and the black finish with the chrome. Door's going to be in chrome. We've got the hydro rail in chrome, and we're doing that 30-inch grab bar shelf, all in chrome. So it'll be absolutely gorgeous. So now I told them what the project is. And I did explain to them how we take it down to the studs and how the installation's done, and we put all the new lines and the new valves. Right, Bob? We covered all that? Fantastic. So now I've gotten the project back in front of them again, and my manager's up to speed. Then I talk about affordability. I gave them their 1-year quote. The 1-year quote came out to $28,432. They would be a finance customer. When the time comes, they would put $1,500 down with a credit card. That's what credit card, right, Bob? Yep. $1,500 down with a credit card. And they would be really comfortable in the $280 to $320 range as far as the monthly investment. Mr. Snyder in this case. Mr. Snyder, we went over all those numbers. I was able to get close to that $320. I'm at about $343 with the initial visit incentive, and they really liked the $2,782. I was also able to give them that military discount and also the senior citizen discount. So I combined those two, the initial visit incentive, and gave them a little bit extra with that military discount and the senior citizens discount. So just, obviously take care of those people. Mr. Spire, and now, why did I call? There's only 2 reasons I called. No matter what the homeowner's been saying, no matter what they've been saying, I don't care if they've been saying, we're not going to do it today. This is 6 months out. We're not going to make our minds up today. Do not empower any of those objections by repeating them back on the MOD call. Because if you say they've been telling me they're not going to make a decision today, what can we do, Mr. Spire? He just heard you repeat it, and he's going to stand firm of not making a decision today. Don't do that. The reason you called is either 1, the biggest problem they had, or number 2, the magic number. Let me talk about these separately. So in the example I've got, where the teenage sons years back horseplayed and cracked the tile in the shower, and we got moisture back there, that's their number 1 problem. So my conversation would go something like this: Mr. Snyder, the reason I called, and I don't know what you can do, but I really feel concerned about this 35 to 40% moisture behind this wall. These boys were doing horseplay 10 or 12 years ago. I mean, their sons are in what, the early 30s? Didn't you say one's 30 and one's 33, Mary? I mean, we're talking about an event that took place over 10 years ago. I can only imagine how bad the mold and mildew is behind there and how much it's grown and encroached through that back tile wall. They've got mold coming through the grout 1.5 and 2 feet away from where that crack is, which means that mold bloom behind that tile is 2, 3, 4 feet across. I mean, it's huge. And those are spores getting out in the air and everything else. I feel terrible that we can't solve this problem for them, Mr. Snyder. What can we do? Whatever the number 1 problem. If it was windows and you found some wood rot or they were concerned about their energy loss, that's the number 1 problem. I can't believe I can't help them save this energy with these windows. It'll literally pay for the windows in 7 or 8 years. As you can see on the closing with the energy audit, that's one of the closes you can do when you're doing windows and doors, is actually paying for the product in 7 or 8 years. You can check that video for those details. So I'm calling about the number 1 problem. And that's all it's about. All it is about is me not wanting to leave this problem here with these wonderful people that have treated me so nicely. What can we do, boss? Period. The second reason you could be calling is if you got a magic number out of them. Now, if you remember from when we did the major close, I told you that when you do the initial visit incentive, I want you to get the people to agree to give you a yes or no. It's called the yes or no, that's fair. John, listen, I'm going to show you the savings. Just take a good look at it. If it works for you, great. We'll get the ball rolling. If it doesn't, I understand. I'll take a no as graciously as a yes. I just want you to let me know one way or the other. That's fair, isn't it, John? You can say yes or no, can't you? Well, I don't know. You can say no, can't you? Yeah, I can say no. Well, there you go. You can say both of them. Mary, can you give me a yes or no? Is that fair? And she goes, yes, it sure is. Fantastic. And then I'll present the savings, ask for the business, assume the order. Maybe I porch light them. Again, go back and watch that major close presentation video. And I come back and I'm wanting true rejection, a yes or a no. If they say no, the next thing out of my mouth is, that's fine, John. I told you I'd take it a no as gracious as. Let me ask you just a question before I go. What was the number that you'd have said yes to? And I go, what do you mean? Well, I mean, you told me you'd give me a yes or a no. That means there's a number that you would have said yes to. I'm just curious what that number is. Well, I'm not really sure. John, sure it is. Sure you are. If you knew you could say yes or no, there's a number we'd be doing paperwork at. I'm just curious what that number is. What number would we be done and we'd be writing the order? Because you love the company, right? Everything about the company. Yeah, sure do. Product. You said that was the product you want on your home, correct? Yeah. So it's just the money, right? Yeah, sure. It's just the money. So what was the number? And they give you the magic number. They say, I thought I could 12 or 14 or 16 or 22. Doesn't matter what it is. Once you've got the magic number, you can call your manager and say, I know we can't do it, Mr. Snyder, but shoot, they told me that if we were at 15 or 16, we'd already be doing paperwork. I wouldn't be on the phone with you. And I know we can't do anything like that, but my gosh, we're not that far apart. What can we do? And then your manager can help you negotiate, meet halfway, meet them in the middle. There's all kinds of closes that can be done with the manager on an MOD call to start moving them up and bringing us down with these incentives. So those are the two reasons why you're calling. You're calling for the number one problem that you discovered in the inspection, and you can't stand the idea of leaving that behind, and or you have the magic number. You might be able to use both. I can't stand the idea of leaving this problem behind, and they told me that if we were 15 or 16, we'd already be writing the order up. I wouldn't even be on the phone with you, Mr. Snyder. What can we do? This is crazy. I can't leave this behind when we're so close. So you might have both. But no other reason am I going to be making this MOD call as far as the conversation with my manager and the person, unless it's a practical reason to close. For instance, they've told you that in 6 months their car's paid off and that payment's what's going to pay for this project. You might be making an MOD call just to get permission to do a deferred payment, and that solves your problem. By all means, make that call. That's a specific answer to a specific problem that closes the deal. I'm talking about if you're not there and they're giving you any one of these other smoke screens, these BS objections, these are the only two reasons you're calling. Number one problem, you discover the inspection, and or the magic number. All right. So once you make the MOD call, and we've got that conversation, and we've talked about the place briefly, how beautiful their place is, the people, how nice they are, and just a little tidbit of history about them, real short and sweet. You described the project, what the problem is, the solution you're going to make, how lovely it's going to be, and you went over the affordability, what numbers they're at, whether they're cash or finance, how they would be doing their initial deposit. So we've got that information, and they found the money in their head because they told you whether it be check, cash, or credit card, so they've actually found the source of the funds. You talk about the incentives you've given, so your manager knows where you are in the drop process and the percentage process, and then you bring it back to either the number one problem or the magic number. Once you've done that, your manager is going to offer you social media. We're never going to give them a discount without receiving something from them. So social media means that they agree to do a couple of reviews, a short video testimonial, give us some referrals, and we can do a job sign, take a picture of them. We can take before and after pictures of the project to use in other presentations or on our company Facebook page or something like that. Nothing that identifies them, just before and after pictures of the actual project we're doing, of the kitchen cabinets, of the bathroom, of the windows. That's it. So in return for being willing to do those things, the manager is going to give you social media. Social media are either funds that he's going to move over from another market because they're not available in the market you're in. And that conversation will go something like, now, I don't have anything in Timbuktu, Virginia, Mike, but yeah, I got some funds in Charlottesville right down the road for you. Charlottesville is a much bigger market. Is this something they're really seriously considering doing? My manager wants to know if you're really seriously considering doing it. I want to see how much money he's going to save you. So let's see what that is for you. We want you to decide if you see the savings. You're serious about this, right? Yep. Yeah, no, they're real serious. And they're good. And then the manager will have you walk through that they're okay with the pictures and the video testimonial and giving you referrals and all of the details of social media. And they go, yes, go, fantastic. And I don't have any lack of business in Charlottesville, So I'm going to move these funds over, but you either got to make use of them or I'm putting them back over in Charlottesville. That's a much bigger market. No, I understand. No, I'll explain to them. Obviously, Charlottesville is a much bigger market than here, so either they make use of them or they got to go back into the bigger market. I know we got appointments every day, all day in Charlottesville. I get that. I understand. And they hear you say that to your manager. So you're just repeating it back so they understand, develop a sense of urgency. The money's not available at another time. And so you hang up the phone and you pull out that social media form and you simply get them to acknowledge again the things they're willing to do. And then when you go into one click and you present that savings of, $1,582. Listen to how I said it. I didn't say $1,582. I said $1,582 or $2,242. I write that right at the top of the social media form. I take my payment estimator, write what the new payment would be. So that's in front of them. And I turn it around to them. And whichever line I haven't used is the one I use now. Boy, I love to see people save money. Welcome to Remodel USA. Or that's a lot better, isn't it? Welcome to Remodel USA. Or I might porch light them and go, now I know you folks need to talk about it because they've been saying think about it. So now I'm going to change the word. I know you folks need to talk about it. Why don't you do this? Talk about the quality of our company and how great that product would be in your home. And if you like everything, want to save the money, let's do it. If not, I'm okay with that. Y'all come get me when you're done. And I walk out the door. And even if they're saying, no, you don't need to go, I'm like, I got to check my phone messages anyway. And I walk out the door because as soon as I go outside, they're going to start talking about it. So just depending on what I haven't done earlier with the initial visit incentive is what I'll use now for social media. I like doing the porch light here. I'm a big fan of the porch light right here after you get the social media. Because one, it's a great close, but also the other thing that's very, very, very important once you start making these higher authority phone calls is you can't turn into an auctioneer. 6 minutes after you call and get social media, you can't be picking up the phone going, that didn't work, boss, calling to give you the funds back. Oh, you got something else. And then you offer that. And then 4 minutes later, you're calling again. You can't do that because that loses all credibility too. You've got to have some time in between these. So if you do the porch light is a great way. They're going to leave you out there 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes. The longer you're out there, the better. More likely you're going to get it. So when you come in, it's a natural break, and then you can talk about it, go do a couple of closes that you pick up off the closing videos that we've got posted. Try a couple of those closes. So when you're picking up the phone for social media down here for one of these two, then there's some time in there. Now, when we pick up the phone for the second call, if we can't close with social media, then what we're going to do is we're going to be calling to let the manager know to put those funds back. Or if you were in a bigger market and the manager said, I had 3 left tonight. Hey, I know we got about 8 people still out and you only had 3, so it wouldn't be fair for me to sit on it. I'm just calling to let you know we didn't make use of it in case somebody else wants to. And then your manager will either take you through the flex install or the factory rebate close. If you did the porch light and you got plenty of time, the factory rebate works. If you did porch light and you're close in your time between the first and second call, you can always do the flex install. There's a video on YouTube about how to do the flex install because that takes 10, 12, 15 minutes to walk them through qualifying for the flex install. And then you pick up the phone, not at the beginning before the call to tell them we didn't use the social media and you offer something else. No, instead you call them at the end of qualifying them for flex install to see if you can have a flex install, see if there's one still available. Again, watch the video and that'll reveal itself and explain that process to you. But you've got to have time between these two calls. If you don't close at the second one, which is flex install, factory rebate, social media is 8%, the next one 6%, the third call is 4%. That adds up to 18%. We never want to go below 82. Remember back? So that's how these are set up. Starting these incentives from the 100% of one click after you've taken the 1 year number off, which is the initial visit incentive. So if I don't get this one here, then if you have room, because you might have given them, you might have been sitting at 96 or 95 here, and then you give them social media, and you're down to 87 or 88, and then give them the flex install, and you're done. So you might not have another. It all depends on where you're at in the drop process. But if you do have room to make that third call, what you're going to do is start packing up. Well, let me get out of here and literally set everything off to the edge or out by the door at the end of the hallway like you're getting ready to leave, and then you're going to go, oh my gosh, I forgot something. You're going to act startled, and what you're going to do is you're going to call to give the money back to your manager because you didn't make use of the social media. You didn't make use of the Flex install. So you're going to call to give the money back, and your manager will then tee up for a manager special, which might be letting you do the job for $500 over labor and material costs, or might be picking up the price of us giving him the fold down seat rather than, we had one in overstock in the warehouse, so we're going to, do that. There's any number of doorknob or lost sale closes that your manager can do. And just depending on the conditions in this particular lead, your manager will take that conversation and run with it. But you got to do at least 2, if not 3 calls, just depending on where you're at in the drop process. Now, to wrap up this thought of MOD calls, I want you to understand something that's very important. Let's talk about the payoff of MOD calls. I want you to understand how important these calls are. So, once you get good at closing and you're doing a nice relaxed process and it's a conversation, of the sales you get, you're going to get half of your sales at your initial visit incentive. Half of them. The rest of your sales that you're going to get approximately 30% of your sales at the social media, the first MOD call. Of your sales, half you'll get by yourself once you get the process down, you're doing good. Then you'll get another 30% when you pick up that phone for the first time. Those are the ones I told you were just waiting for you to pick up the phone before they said yes. You had them closed. They had just made a deal with each other. There was no way they were going to say yes until you picked up the phone. So you get another 30% of your sales on that first call because it's all those people that are now signing up. And then on your second and third MOD call, those are only worth 10% each. They're only worth 10% each. However, because this is a big ticket sale and the commission on it is worth $2,500 to $3,500, religiously making the second and third MOD call is worth $40,000 to $50,000 in annual income to you each. Each. Dedication to making the second and third MOD call from the house is what takes somebody from being a $120,000 in income earner to a $200,000 or $220,000 income earner. Or somebody that's doing great and can get $140,000, $150,000 themselves and with one MOD call, and it takes them to $250,000 in income. Go back to orientation. Remember we talked about Average Joe and the Superstar, and we based it on 35 leads that they were issued for the month. Well, this 10% isn't about the number of leads you get. If you had 35 leads and you were demoing at 80%, that means you had 28 demos. And if we think about Superstar, I want to think Superstar had about 11 sales, 12 sales, I think it was. Let's say it was 12. 28 minus 12 is 16 demos that weren't closed. 16. What we're talking about here is just getting 2 more sales out of that 16. We don't have to get 5 more sales. We need to find 2 more sales out of the 16 unclosed demos. You think you have 1 sale out of every 8? 16 has two 8s. We're looking for 1 sale out of each 8. And it's right here by making the second and third MOD call. They don't work very often. But the beauty of it is if you get 1 to work here each month and you get 1 of these to work each month, just 10% of the time, you've just added $5,000 to $7,000, $2,500 to $3,500 in commission to your gross commission. And if you're keeping 80% of your business, that's $4,000 to $5,500. That's 48 to 70 grand a year, just under 70 grand. 48,000 to 67,500, I believe the number is, an additional income for the year. And you didn't have to drive to 1 more house. You didn't have to see 1 more person. You didn't have to work 1 more hour or anything else. These are demos you already did. So it's so important for you to capture these long shots because you're already doing the work. And they make a huge difference in income to you personally. The last thing I want to share with you is why don't people make these calls? They don't make these calls because of this right here. The fact that they only work 10% of the time. You see, the numbers don't come evenly. So you can be in a situation where you call that flex install and you call it 10 times in a row and it doesn't work. You call it 15 times in a row, it doesn't work, and you don't think it ever works and you quit. But the 16th and 17th time you would have tried it, it would have worked for you. You have to be dedicated to this system and understand that these numbers are about length of time. You're never going to see the numbers hold true in this business on a 2-week or even a 4-week basis. They're fairly honest numbers in 60 days, 2 months, and they run very true in 3 and 4 month runs, 90 to 120 days. That's the picture where somebody can really see how you're doing and what you're doing and how you should run your business. So if you do them for a month, you might not get a flex install to work at all month long. And one of these works. But then the next month, you get 2 flex installs to work that next month. You have to be dedicated to the system and understand it's not call it 9 times and then it works. Call it 9 times and then it works. It might work the first time and the third time and then not work for 19 more times before it works again. But if you stay true to it, it can literally add anywhere from 45 or 50 to 80 or $90,000 in income to your business just by doing these final calls. Because this is a big ticket close and there's a lot of money on the table and it's big commission dollars. Thank you.